And welcome in to another edition of the UMBC Ryan Odom Coaches Report. Gary Stein, along with UMBC head men's basketball coach Ryan Odom. Welcome in. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks.
I'll tell you what, you won't really know by the way the place looks right now, but on Thursday night, this place is going to be hopping. It's the game of the year in the America East Conference. The University of Vermont will be coming here to UMBC to take on the Retrievers. We'll talk about that in a minute, but it's been a little while since we've been together, and there's a lot of games to talk about. Before we get to the games, just in general, you guys have won 8 out of your last 9 after losing 2 of your first 3 in the America East. What's been the difference for you over the last month and a half?
Yeah, very simply, it's sense of urgency. Our guys, after losing to UMass-Lowell and Hartford on the road to kind of start the season off, we came back and had practice shortly after. You had a day off on that Sunday and then practice that Monday. And there was just a sense of urgency that we needed at that point in time. We weren't playing every possession like it was our last. We certainly were making a lot of mistakes on both sides of the ball, and clearly at that point it was evident. We needed to be more efficient on the defensive end of the ball. That was going to be our identity, and we needed to just kind of figure that out. And we began to kind of go back to the basics a little bit, and our guys have kind of taken off from there. And I think they really bought into who they are as a team, and we figured out ways to win. It hasn't been pretty all the time, obviously, but we've found ways to win kind of through our defense, and especially, when we're shooting it a little bit better, it makes our team that much better. Certainly dealt with a lot of injuries and things, throughout the season. I've been really proud of the fact that the guys have stayed together and had multiple guys step up, in tough times.
Most of those injuries have occurred in the front court. There are times when we're doing the games where we see the tallest guy on the floor is 6'5" or 6'6".
Yeah.
So you're going with a small lineup, I guess, out of necessity, if no other reason. Nobody likes to lose players to injury. There's no doubt about it. That's not a good thing. But do you think in some kind of, odd way that's made your team focus even a little more?
It has a tendency to do that. It definitely can do that for certain teams, but I don't think any coach would say we'd rather not have guys available to play. I mean, we recruited them to be here, and obviously they're good players. When we've lost, 2 guys in Dan and Max Curran, who started, basically the entire, pre-conference season, non-conference season, for us. Dan started basically all of last year. Max was a key figure for our team as well. So to lose them hurts. But if there was one position that you would have said, hey, if you're going to end up having some injuries, it would be in the front court, because that's where we were at our strongest going into the season.
Right. Take us back about a week and a half. You guys went on the road at Maine, at Binghamton, and from the looks of it, just conference record-wise, they're not in the top 4 or 5, but they're both very difficult teams to play, especially Maine, who's really come on. Talk a little bit about the Maine game and how you were able to come out on top.
Yeah, certainly. It was a huge game for us. We were coming off, lost at home to Hartford, and where we didn't play as well as we needed to play in order to have a chance to win down the stretch. Hartford's a really, really good team. They're an experienced team, and so we needed to put our best foot forward playing against 2 quality opponents on the road, and that's not easy to do. And we were coming off a game, the previous game against Maine, which we were down big at half, and ended up coming back, and we're fortunate enough to win that game. And so we knew it was going to be a battle, from the tip to the end. And Maine got off to a good start on us. I know it was pretty close at halftime, and our guys did a nice job in the second half of finishing that game off in a very tight situation. We managed to kind of take the lead, later in that half, and I didn't like exactly how it ended because we turned it over a couple of times there, and they got some baskets that had we been able to finish it a little bit better, I would have been more pleased. But great win for us. Any win on the road in our conference is a really good one. And, Maine, I knew, is a really tough opponent.
And then Binghamton, you guys got hot from the three-point line in the second half. I think 7 for 11, 4 big ones right down the stretch. Talk a little bit about that one.
Yeah, that equally was a big game, an important game for us on the road. We played 80 minutes against zone in those 2 games. Maine played 40 minutes, and then Binghamton played 40 minutes of zone. So we got, in the grand scheme of things, we got some good reps against zone defense for us. And our guys handled it well. I thought they did a nice job defensively. I think Binghamton might have scored 50 points, and that was tight throughout, and we were able to have one run that kind of stretched it and gave us some breathing room down the stretch. And we were able to finish the game off.
And then the Riverhawks come to town, UMass-Lowell over the weekend. It's always tough between UMBC and UMass-Lowell. Having said that, though, you guys held them at like 13 or 15 below their season average. I thought it was, and you've had a lot of great defensive performances this year, but I thought this one was a particularly good one.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, UMass-Lowell is the best offensive team, certainly from a scoring standpoint in our league, and they're really tough to guard. And it takes a lot of attention to detail, a lot of effort, and our guys were willing to give that throughout that entire game. And certainly you're not going to hold a team like UMass-Lowell who scores the ball the way that they do, shut them out. And, our guys, fought to the end. We weren't as good as we needed to be in terms of our transition offense and then our press attack at the end of the game. So there's some areas certainly for improvement for us going forward.
And I'm sure Vermont coming in took a look at that press that UML did at the end of the game, so we'll talk about that. But here it is now. So the University of Vermont comes into UMBC, to the Event Center, this coming Thursday night, 7 o'clock. The game's nationally televised on ESPNU. You've had now a chance to have your team with you a couple of days before the game. What's your message to them as this game approaches?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's business as usual. Every game that comes is an opportunity to improve and get better. We talked to the guys again. We can't win the championship on Thursday night. We can't let this game become bigger than it is. And there certainly will be a lot of noise surrounding it on campus and beyond. And that's okay. That's what you want. You want to play in big games. You want to be a part of big games and share the floor, with a quality opponent like Vermont. And they're having another exceptional year. They're really tough to guard. The first game up there at Vermont, obviously they were without their heart and soul and their best player in Anthony Lamb, so that's an added factor into the game. Certainly we prepped, for him. We didn't realize he wasn't playing until minutes before the game. So we were expecting him to play at that point, but it's going to be a hard-fought game. And they took it to us in here last year, in that second matchup, the opening of the arena here. And so we're going to have to play our best basketball to have a chance to win.
They have a lot of streaks going and a lot of accolades, et cetera, but the one that really sticks out to me more than anyone else is they have a 24-game road winning streak.
Yeah.
That is really impressive. What does that speak to as, you being a coach?
Yeah, it's remarkable. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's remarkable. It's hard enough to win at home, in your conference. And, to have a streak going like that where you're not only winning at home, but you're winning on the road in tough environments, and you're taking the other team's best shot every time. It's really, really impressive, and Coach Becker and his staff have done an amazing job.
John Feinstein and I were saying in the last broadcast against Mass-Lowell that in the 3 years that you've been here, going on the end of the third year now, you've really coached 3 different teams. You had a Will Darley, a great three-point threat, along with Joe Sherburne back then. Last year, you were very, very strong in the backcourt. This year, it's a completely different team, really, from the first 2 teams. Do you feel that way from time to time?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, certainly, my nature is I love to play fast. I love to play up and down the court and, shoot early threes and transition if we can, and get layups and play very, very fast. And this particular team, each team is different, and you have to figure out what's best for this particular group. And certainly it's not best for this group. It's what's best for this group is to really lock in on defense. All right, be very stingy on that end of the court, and we've proven to be that. So far the guys have bought into that. And then offensively, we're continuing to figure it out. We've got young guards and. We don't have KJ Mora kind of running things. We don't have Jarris, when you're in a bind and need a bucket, a guy that we could really go to, and he could create things. And this group, to their credit, they've figured out how to win, and they know how to do it now. That doesn't mean that it's going to continue. It's about constantly being present and being ready on every occasion. And for us, the next occasion is practice tomorrow and getting ready for, Vermont, a really good Vermont team that's going to come into Baltimore.
Couple of notes on a couple of your guys, and it seems like we talk about this guy every week, but there's a reason for that. Joe Sherburne is scheduled to play in his 130th game in a UMBC uniform this Thursday night. It'll be the #1 mark as far as the history of the team is concerned. Just your thoughts on Joe and what he's meant.
Yeah, he's the model of consistency as well, on and off the court. It means so much to our team. He's been playing really, really well recently, last 5-6 games in conference, and just proud of all that he's done and accomplished here at UMBC, and this is just another one, another accolade that he can add to his belt.
And just a quick note, Jairus Lyles was here for the UMass-Lowell game on Saturday. It was Alumni Day, and he was one of the alumni back. Do you get a chance to talk to him much anymore at all? Or
I do,
you
yeah.
do? Okay.
We text back and forth. He lets me know how it's going, and I try not to bother him. Obviously, he's got his own coach now and his own team and career that he's chasing, and but they all of the former players know that I'm here to support them and if they need it, and I'm their biggest fan, and certainly Jairus is no different. And Ben Grace was back too. We had some former players here from the '98 team, and Alumni Day was a big success here. I mean, the whole lower bowl was packed for the game, and we're excited for Thursday night too. Hopefully we can get a similar crowd, if not better.
I think you will. We'll hang out for a minute here. When we come back, Brandon Horvath will join us, the sophomore forward. We're going to finally find out from Brandon. We're going to figure out the controversy, just how tall he is, when the UMBC Ryan Odom Coaches Report continues right after this. And welcome back to the UMBC Ryan Odom Coaches Report. Gary Stein along with head coach Ryan Odom. Now joined by sophomore forward Brandon Horvath, who I'm going to shake your hand very gingerly here.
Appreciate it.
Right? Got that.
Yep.
And the reason why is because Brandon actually has had an hand issue for the last few weeks. And let's talk about that just to start off. How's your hand doing?
It's doing okay. Coming back from a broken hand. I fractured my ring finger, and it's just been tough because it's my shooting hand, so I do everything with that, but it's coming along pretty now.
So you feel now that you can shoot any shot you want at this point?
Yeah, pretty much almost, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coach, what about not having a big 6? Well, let's not give away the size just yet because I want to talk about that. Yeah. But how good is it to have one of your big guys back?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, certainly we've been struggling a little bit, from a numbers standpoint, and we've had quite a few injuries, over the course of the season and at different times during the season. And to our guys' credit, they've kind of rallied behind one another and stepped up in a lot of different ways. And guys have gone from, playing to all of a sudden they're not available to all of a sudden they're back again. And all the while somebody else is filling in quite effectively. And it's been really good. But it's great to have Brandon back. I mean, obviously he provides, a scoring punch. I mean, he was averaging 11 a game prior to getting hurt.
Right.
And he's a very versatile forward for us, can play multiple positions, and has been really a big part of our success this season.
And I think a lot of that has to do with your growth spurt over time, which we kind of talked about before the show. So here we're going to debunk the controversy right now.
Yeah.
In the first show that we had this year, your teammate and probably good friend, Nolan Garrity, came on and said, oh, Brandon, he's the tallest guy in the team. They have him listed as 6'10", but he's really 6'11",
yeah,
or maybe even more.
He's a liar.
Okay, so you're here, you're in front of the camera. Tell us, how tall is Brandon Horvath?
So here's my thing.
Okay.
When we weigh ourselves, we don't weigh ourselves with shoes, right? Because we don't want the added weight.
Exactly.
So why would you do with the height?
You
so I measure myself with no shoes.
Okay.
So with no shoes, I am 6'9.5", and no one is a liar.
So there you have it from so I won't say the horse's mouth, from the forward's mouth.
Yes.
6'9.5". But the interesting thing about that is and he was started recruiting before you got here.
Yes.
But even when you were recruiting him, he wasn't 6'9.5". He had a spurt. Yeah. So how did his growth kind of affect the recruitment and what he can do?
Yeah, no question. I mean, certainly, he was a guard probably as a sophomore, junior, and in high school, and all of a sudden when you grow like that, and you still have those guard skills, it's a plus. And I can remember watching Brandon. It was in either the spring or the summer. I think it was the summer. and we're up in Philadelphia at Philly U, and
Philly U, yeah.
yeah, and Coach Skeeters and I were up there and sitting on the side, and all of a sudden, watch this kid. He rebounds it off the glass. This tall, skinny kid rebounds it, and then he aggressively dribbles it all the way up the court and crosses somebody over and makes a pass, and the guy makes a three. And I'm like, whoa! Like, this is a little. And he had a little flair and flavor to him, and I was like, I like this kid. And so I sent Skeets back to watch him another game that same weekend, and he came back and was like, oh yeah, we need to recruit this guy. And so, then began the process of our staff kind of getting to know him and his family, and we all were kind of involved in that recruitment, and it was obviously great for UMBC.
And we've seen those skills from time to time on the floor. I don't remember what game it was, but I know it was a non-conference game. Basically,
Manhattan.
You got the rebound, yeah. And basically, it was all you. It was got the rebound, put it on the floor, went all the way to the hoop, scored.
Yep.
My question to you is, how has your growth spurt, and it's probably been 5 or 6 inches over the last 3 or 4 years, affected you basketball-wise? Because you were a guard all those years, and now you're a forward/center. Like, how do you deal with that?
I think it's definitely helped me for sure. Going from just having that guard skill into the forward just can't hurt anybody. It's being versatile. So I just use that to my advantage, and the height just comes along with the skill pretty much.
Do you, from time to time, just want to kind of do what you did against Manhattan, and that's just get the ball taken
all the time.
and just like do it all?
Yeah, but I gotta run to the rim or trail.
Right.
Yeah.
Because of the offense. But
Right.
Yeah.
I can dribble a little bit.
But he does give you a lot of options, though.
He
He's
does.
kind of is that guy that can do it all.
Yeah, no question, and certainly defensively, that's a help for us
Yeah.
too. It allows us to, wall the basket, and he's a long guy, and he can switch, on different players, different sizes of our opponents, and he's done a great job in that area as well.
I want to take you back to last year. Actually, you were a freshman here, and you were having an okay year, and then you kind of hit a little bit of a bump where you went late in the year. You were like 0 for 8 from the 3-point line, and then came the Albany game, and Albany had beaten you guys by 40 plus back there a month earlier, and they were a tough team, and you guys had them. I think that they had you by 11 here, if I'm not mistaken. You hit 2 big 3-pointers about midway through the second half to kind of lead the team back, and KJ and Jarris had a great second half as well. But take us through that real quick, and was that like a big moment for you to do it in crunch time?
For sure. And the thing was that my Aunt Lori actually passed away a week before the game.
Really?
Yeah, so I haven't seen her in like 2 years, and the tickets were on her table when she passed away too. So it was like real touching for me and just for that to happen was just awesome. So I was just turning point of my season for sure.
Yeah. Were you thinking about her?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was getting I didn't really like show it on the court, but I was really emotional after the game.
Well, and that is one thing about your game, though. You are a pretty emotional player.
Yeah.
You play with a lot of passion.
Yeah.
Has it been that way throughout your whole career?
Yeah, for sure. I just kind of a little edge to me, a little chip on my shoulder, and it just helps me, get fired up for the game, play a little harder.
Is that something in a player that you value?
Yeah, no question. I mean, you want somebody that's confident, you want somebody that believes in themselves, and also has a passion for the game. And clearly Brandon does that. He doesn't I don't like it necessarily when he gets the technicals like he did, against his brother.
Right. We got to talk about that.
But
yeah.
It's definitely
Controlled,
good to have.
controlled.
So Alex is your brother for Shenandoah, and it's his freshman year, if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
right? And had you ever played against him before, like you did
In the
earlier?
backyard, maybe that's about
Right.
it, but not in any structured, like organizational teams or nothing like that.
And you guys were more height equivalent back then, correct?
Usually, yeah.
So,
I was always a little taller, but we were more even.
Right, but you're a couple years older than him.
Yeah.
So you pretty much beat him all the time.
Oh, yeah, every
Kinda
time.
But did it ever happen like with the Schweitz brothers, where Jack eventually ended up catching up to Sam a little bit? No, never.
No, never.
Okay, gotcha.
We'll never be that.
Sorry, Alex.
Sorry.
How was it for your family when you two played here?
It was awesome. It was mixed because my mom had to wear a Shenandoah hat with a UMBC jacket.
Right.
But it was a fun game, a great time seeing my brother. I never really get to see him. And it was just great playing him.
Right. Alex at all? I mean, did you ever look at him at all, or what did you think of Alex's game?
Alex is a good player, and we're actually really excited. We know the coach at Shenandoah really well. Coach Walsh is a really good friend of Coach Dixon's and mine as well. He actually played, a little known fact, he played at High Point University where my brother played, and the old coach there coached my father as well. And so we're just excited that he's there and doing well. And I played Division III ball, and he wanted to continue getting on the court and playing and all that, and so that was the best decision for him.
For sure.
So we talked about the Vermont game a little bit in the open, which wanted to talk to Brandon about a little bit, and just the message that you kind of imparted to the team here. I mean, this is obviously a big game coming up. There's no doubt about it. They're the number one team in the conference right now. But I think that the message that Coach is imparting is just, hey, it's just a game. It's no bigger than one game. Sure. So just talk about how you feel about something like that.
Yeah, for sure. You can't be overhyped going into the game. Can't get out of what you do best. Just got to take it one game at a time. You can't win the championship tomorrow or Thursday, like you said. So we just got to go in, stick to the scouting report, do what we got to do, and hopefully come out with a win.
What were your thoughts going into Vermont when you played them last month and beat them by 11 up there?
Oh, for sure. Just being confident. The pressure's really on them to beat us because no one thinks we're going to win. So just stick to the scouting report, do what we got to do, and we just did it. And we got a W.
He sounds like a mini Ryan Odom here. You got quite an impression on him.
He's regurgitating everything. No, I mean, certainly we have a ton of respect for
sure.
Vermont and the rest of the league. And I mean, they've had an amazing run here the last couple of years with Coach Becker. I mean, he's been there, I think it's 8 seasons or something like that, and he's had 20 wins in each of those 8. And, just model of consistency and a lot to be proud of in the America East. And, we certainly are honored to share the court with them, and we're a competitive group too. We want to win, and certainly it'll be a good game on Thursday.
Yeah, for sure. Well, again, gingerly shaking your right hand. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And we'll see you Thursday night.
Thank you.
Big game coming up. Brandon Horvath will hopefully be a big part of that. We'll take a time out here. We'll come back with our third segment. John Feinstein will join us when we return right after this.
Respect is hard work. Respect is dedication.
Respect is earned on the court or on the field.
Respect doesn't judge based on sexual orientation or gender identity.
Respect is being the first conference to partner with the You Can Play project.
And the first conference in the LGBT Sports Safe Founders Club.
Respect coaches, players, and the game.
Respect similarities.
Respect differences.
Spread respect.
Spread respect.
Spread respect.
And welcome back to the UMBC Ryan Odom Coaches Report. Gary Stein along with UMBC head coach Ryan Odom, joined by my broadcast partner, New York Times bestselling author John Feinstein. Johnny, how are you?
I'm just terrific. How are you guys?
Not too bad. Hey, listen,
I have a question, though.
Yes.
And this is more for Ryan than you, Gary, because you should know the answer to this.
Okay.
Because you're close to my age. Ryan, do you know which presidents we honor on President's Day and what their actual dates of birth are?
No. That's a quick no.
Yeah, see, that's now when I was a kid growing up.
Yeah, you had to memorize
Gary,
those, right?
We celebrated Abraham Lincoln's birthday on February 12th.
Okay.
And George Washington's birthday on February 22nd.
Got it.
But now because of these Monday holidays, kids nowadays have no idea whose birthdays we're celebrating on President's Day.
Well, I knew, John, and you're right, we are about the same age. I knew that it was Washington and Lincoln, but I didn't realize that those were their birthdays. I thought we were just celebrating the two presidents and that we just kind of picked a day to do that, thinking maybe we needed to do something in February. I didn't realize that the 12th and the 22nd were actually their birthdays.
New York City public schools, we used to get off February 12th and February 22nd
Really?
to celebrate both birthdays.
My, how things have changed.
Kids like Ryan just were gypped out of their childhood.
Deprived.
Yeah, no doubt.
Hey, John, speaking of how things have changed, let's lead it off with one of the biggest trades, if not the biggest, in the offseason so far in the NFL. And I know you wrote about Joe Flacco in your last book, quarterback. He's gone now from the Ravens, or not officially, actually, but once the new
March
NFL year
13th, he'll
begins, he'll be a Denver
traded.
Bronco. What are your thoughts on this trade?
Well, it's no surprise at all. I mean, John Harbaugh was very honest after the Ravens lost the playoff game to the Chargers that, there'll be a market for Joe Flacco. He's going to play quarterback successfully somewhere in this league. Lamar is our quarterback going forward. I mean, I don't think he could have been more honest than that. I'm a little surprised. Everybody's saying, well, the Ravens did well getting a fourth-round pick. I'm a little surprised they didn't do better when Kansas City traded Alex Smith, who I think is a comparable quarterback to Joe Flacco, except that Joe Flacco has a Super Bowl ring, to Washington. They got a player and a third-round pick in return. Apparently, the Ravens are only getting a fourth. I think Joe Flacco is worth more than that. People are citing his age, that he's 34. I think Joe Flacco can be a starter in the NFL for 5 more years, and I think he'll do well in Denver because similar to his most successful years in Baltimore, when he took teams to the playoffs 7 times and won a Super Bowl, of course, he's going to a team with a very good defense.
Yeah, they do have a good defense. Plus, I think they're going to build an offense around him that is going to, they have an excellent running game there. So I think he's got an opportunity to do some of the similar things. I don't know if he's going to win a Super Bowl or not, but I do think he has an opportunity to be successful.
Well, you never know if you're going to win a Super Bowl, but I think Joe will be a very good quarterback for the Broncos. He was a very good quarterback for the Ravens for most of his career here.
Yeah. Ryan, one of the criticisms of Joe was that he wasn't like really a rah-rah guy. Like you see a Tom Brady,
Sure.
when something goes wrong, he's in the guy's face, and, he kind of wills his team to victory, if nothing else. Do you put any stock in that? Do you put, if you are a rah-rah guy, you're not a rah-rah guy, does that make a difference at all?
I think sometimes it can show passion, passion for the sport, passion for the game and the moment. But I think really it's about getting the job done. And as coaches, we all want players to get the job done on every play. And whatever their role is, to champion it and do it to the best of their ability. I think if you look at Belichick, he's not really giving you rah-rah. He's just getting it done every week after week after week. And I think that's what we all want as coaches.
Yeah, I never really had a problem with it. John, did you ever really take that criticism? You think that criticism was valid?
I think to be a leader, you have to be respected by your teammates, so that even if you're not in their face, when you say something to them, they listen and respect what you're saying. And remember when we tried to nickname Joe Sherburne Cool Joe after Flacco, how he bristled, but because he's an Aaron Rodgers guy. But there are similarities. I mean, Ryan, Joe's not a rah-rah in-your-face guy, but I think every guy in your locker room respects him and looks up to him.
Yeah, no question. And, you have to kind of be who you are. And, we want guys to try to get outside of themselves a little bit and make themselves a little uncomfortable to become a little bit better leader. You're going to have to, when you step up and you're a captain, you're going to have to talk more than maybe you necessarily want to, and that's part of the job. But at the same time, you got to be yourself. It's no different than me taking over as a head coach. I can't be my dad, and my dad's different than me.
Right.
And so you've got to do what's comfortable for you, but at the same time, what's most important for your team at that particular moment. And certainly, Flacco's done that over the course of his career, and Joe's definitely doing it for us.
Hey, John, one of the biggest stages for college basketball, for pro basketball for that matter, Madison Square Garden, a big upset over the weekend. Villanova had a 17-point lead on St. John's at the Garden on Sunday, and St. John's came back and beat them in the second half. Your thoughts on something like that? St. John's actually looks like they're getting it together, and they're kind of making a nice run here at the end of the season.
Well, a couple things, Gary. First of all, the surprise to me is a Jay Wright coach team blowing a 17-point lead.
Absolutely.
I mean, it can happen to anybody. We know that, especially when you're playing on the road. But Villanova doesn't usually give up that kind of a lead. So that was unusual. I think St. John's winning that game is as much a reflection of the fact that the Big East isn't that good this year. Villanova is still the best team, and Jay's done a tremendous job losing 4 guys to the NBA and still being in first place in the Big East. But other than Marquette, there's nobody else who's ranked or deserves to be ranked. I don't know that there's anybody else in that league who deserves to be in the NCAA tournament right now. Now, they'll get more than 2 bids because of politics. That's the way the committee works. But St. John's got off to a great start. And then faded for a while, and really they were kind of falling off the bubble before that win yesterday. That was a huge win for them, but they're going to have to build on it. There's still 3 weeks left in the Big East regular season, and I think they're going to need some more wins if they're going to be a legitimate NCAA tournament team.
Hey, John, Ryan, do you think this is a year where the mid-majors will get an at-large bid? Do you think like a team like a Wofford, who's playing really lights-out basketball right now? I think they're 15-0. Do you feel like this is a year where that can happen?
2 weeks ago, Ryan, about the fact that if there's ever a year when there should be mid-major at-large teams, this is it. The first 2 years that they went to 68 teams, 2011 and 2012, there were 6 mid-major at-larges and 8 mid-major at-larges. And the last 2 years, there have been 1 in each year. And the committee has clearly been far more biased toward the power conferences. And I include multiple bid conferences, the 5 football power conferences plus the Big East, the AAC, and the Atlantic 10, who traditionally get at least 3 bids. But this year, I just did, I am no bracketologist, and if you ever called me one, I'd punch you in the nose. But I did kind of an informal look through all the conference standings, and I found a total in the 8 power conferences of 33 schools that right now should get bids. Now, you would think that at least 6 or 7 of those will be automatic bid teams, that they'll win their conference tournaments. So that takes it down to 26, 27, 28, somewhere in there, which leaves 7, 8, 9 spots still open. And the question is, will the committee have the guts and the smarts to say, Wofford doesn't necessarily win the Southern Conference tournament? That's a good league.
Yeah.
That league's got 4 legitimately good teams. What if Buffalo doesn't win the MAC?
Right.
They have to be in the tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got too many good wins to not be in if they don't win the tournament. But you could also make the case that a Toledo, if they don't win the tournament in the MAC, deserves a bid. What about Old Dominion if they don't win in Conference USA? I mean, there's a whole bunch of examples of schools that are deserving of bids, whether they win their automatic bids or not. The long-winded answer to your question, Ryan, is I hope so.
Yeah.
John, do you think there's a team in the America East, if they don't win their conference, would qualify there?
Well, I would put Vermont in that category, but the fact that Vermont didn't get in last year with their resume, and that UMBC was made a 16th seed, although that worked out okay, would indicate to you that it's going to be very hard for anybody in the America East to get an at-large. Do I think Vermont, regardless of whether they win the conference tournament, could go into the NCAAs as a 13, 14, 15 seed and win a game? I absolutely do, but I don't think they'll get that chance.
Ryan, how difficult or easy or whatever would it be to schedule a game like against an Old Dominion or a Wofford or something like that? Like one of these teams that John is talking about, which really, have been coming on the last few years.
Yeah, it just depends, I mean, I think both coaches obviously would have to agree to it. We're certainly willing to play outside of our network here and go play other quality opponents. Scheduling is going to continue to get harder. The more you win, the more difficult it is to schedule teams. And when you line up against another team, especially like if you're in Old Dominion situation, you want to play outside of your conference. You want to play against quality opponents who don't have, the lower net, so to speak, now, old RPI.
Right.
So that it helps you if you get a win against one of those opponents. So, certainly, those are great teams that you mentioned there that we would benefit from playing. And I think that's why we added Florida Gulf Coast this past year, and certainly Towson's a great
Northern
game.
Kentucky.
What's that? Northern Kentucky as well.
Kentucky too.
Yeah, they're playing good ball right now. I think they're 10-4 in their conference. So yeah, I think it definitely makes sense.
John, what do you think about the net?
I don't think it's any worse than the RPI. Look, Gary, Ryan knows, I am not a big believer in computer printouts. I have this strange way of approaching sports that you try to watch teams play.
That's crazy,
and
John.
make judgments on how good they are based on watching them play basketball rather than looking at a computer printout. Last week, somebody sent me this computerized preseason football thing that this guy does based on algorithms and all this other stuff. And I looked through it, and they had Army ranked 80th. Army was 11-2 last year, and they got most of their players returning. So I just put I made the mistake of tweeting, how in the world can you put Army 80th? based on what they did last season, what they have coming back this season. What is this guy thinking? What is this guy watching? Oh boy! Now you would have thought that I had, attacked God and country based on the responses I got on Twitter. You don't understand computers. You don't understand the formula. How dare you criticize whoever this guy is? Blah 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 blah. I mean, honestly, I was just saying, gosh, I've kind of watched Army play football, and I think they're better than 80th. And people took it like I was attacking their children in some way. So I'm the same way with the net. The RPI had become a joke. That's why they finally got rid of it, because it was so stacked toward the power conferences. But we'll see if using the net, because nobody on the basketball committee knows anything about basketball. They're all, glorified fundraisers, commissioners and athletic directors. So given that, we'll see if the net produces any better a field than the RPI has in past years.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about Conference USA? Because they're approaching the end of their conference season now. You mentioned Old Dominion. I know they're probably 2 games ahead of the rest of the pack at this point.
Right.
And kind of are at the number 1 seed. I guess they're getting ready to play they have the new scheduling formula, and all the top teams play the top teams, at the end here.
Right.
Maybe explain that and tell me your thoughts.
Against each other, and the next 5 play against each other. And the reason they're doing that, and they just seeded them on Sunday, the reason they're doing that presumably is so that teams won't get hurt in the net by playing bottom of their conference teams late in the season. Problem I think that's going to come up is, I talked to Jeff Jones about this a week ago, and he said, yeah, it's a great idea, except I still don't see us getting an at-large bid because of the way things are stacked against the smaller conferences. And if let's say Old Dominion wins out in the regular season and doesn't win the conference tournament and gets an at-large bid, then other teams will copy what Conference USA has done.
John, it's been a pleasure as always, my friend. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
I'll look forward to it, Ryan. Good luck on Thursday.
Thanks so much, John.
John, thank you again. That's John Feinstein, my broadcast partner on the ESPN 3 Games and the New York Times Award. What are you, the best-selling author, John, still?
They call you that if you've had one bestseller.
One, right.
So, I've had 23, so I guess it's okay to call me that.
John, thank you as always.
All right, guys.
And that'll do it. We'll see you next time on the UMBC Ryan Odom Coaches Report.